Hi, Sheila.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good, good. And Aileen, do you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you
Okay,
perfectly.
good, 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 good. Here are two more students.
Thanks everyone who's joining so far. We'll go ahead and start in just a few minutes once everyone else from the waiting room has entered the panel. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual panel. We're thrilled to have you. I'm going to give it over to President Ali first, and then we'll get this going.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. Welcome to tonight's virtual panel for the American Dream Reconsidered Conference entitled Education, Immigration, and the American Dream. As an educator and as an immigrant myself, I'm very excited to hear from some of our amazing students about these issues. The number of foreign students and recent immigrants attending college in America has risen dramatically in the last few decades. A trend that has also increasingly shaped the student body at Roosevelt University. This panel will focus on the experiences of some of these students, the special challenges and opportunities that come from attending college as a foreign student or as a recent immigrant. I want to thank Emily Elliot-Meisel for moderating tonight's panel. She's the Director of International Programs at Roosevelt University. Emily started her career teaching English to Brazilian university students through a Fulbright teaching assistantship before pursuing her master's degree in international education from NYU. Emily has also worked for the Institute of International Education's Scholar Rescue Fund and is an education policy doctoral student at the University of Illinois. She cares deeply about the intersection of education and immigration, and I believe she will be an ideal guide for tonight's discussion. So we're also fortunate to have 5 outstanding students, Roosevelt students, to help us gain a deeper understanding of these issues. I will let Ms. Elliot-Meisel tell you more about them. Emily.
Thank you so much, President Ali. Thank you, everyone who's joined tonight. We're thrilled to have you. I echo all the same sentiments as President Ali, that we're thrilled to have a panel full of students who are either first-generation Americans or foreign students and alumni. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone, our panelists tonight, and then we'll jump into the questions. First, I'd like to introduce Surbi Virnove. Surbi is an alumna of Roosevelt University and a public relations account executive. She has proven expertise in storytelling, crafting executive and media strategies, developing media relations, and managing external communications. She remains involved with her alma mater, assisting new international students and presenting at orientation. Thank you so much for joining. Next, we have Eileen Salcedo. Eileen is an undergraduate student here at Roosevelt and is excited to share the American dream from the perspective of a first-generation Latina. In her words, this means carrying the legacy of her family's history while seizing opportunities that were once beyond their grasp. It's about striving to achieve goals that seemed unattainable. Eileen is fueled by the sacrifices and resilience of those who came before her. To her, breaking barriers and overcoming obstacles is a fundamental part of the American dream. She is proof that progress is not only possible, but necessary. Welcome, Eileen. Next, we have Shayla Juarez. Shayla was born here in the United States, but is the first of her family to go to college. She is currently a sophomore studying biology and also plans to minor in psychology. With a biology degree, she plans to then go to medical school after she graduates. Welcome, Shayla. Last but not least, we have Knowledge Ahaji. With a goal of obtaining his CPA license and exploring forensic accounting, Knowledge is driven by the quote, "While we wait for life, life passes." Knowledge is a Ghanaian with an undergraduate degree in business administration and is currently pursuing his master's in accounting at Roosevelt. He served as the former vice president of the Ashesi Real Estate Club in 2022 and is the former ambassador for the World Literacy Foundation to Ghana. At Roosevelt, he is a graduate assistant in Heller College of Business and is the president of the National Association of Black Accountants for the RU chapter. In his spare time, which it doesn't seem like he has much of, he enjoys playing soccer, traveling, and coaching students. Welcome, Knowledge. Thank you again, everyone. I've had the chance of speaking to all of these students in preparation for this panel, and I'm really thrilled that they'll get to share their stories and experiences with everyone here tonight. So to kick us off, I'd like everyone to go around and share their personal story, how you ended up at Roosevelt, the chain of events that led you to this, why you chose the program that you're in and at Roosevelt, essentially who you are and where you're coming from. I'll give it over to Eileen first.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Eileen Salcedo. I am a third year and I am majoring in biology. So my story, my family story, is that my mom came to the United States in hope of escaping Mexico because it wasn't really good at the time. So she came over here to the United States with my oldest sister. And in total, we are 5 siblings. I am the youngest, and there is a 10-year age gap between me and them. So I am really the baby. And I am also the only one that was born in the United States. So all of them were born in Mexico, and they all came here as well. So for me, being the youngest and the one with legal documentation in the United States, it was very emphasized to take advantage of every opportunity that the United States gave to me and that it wasn't possible for my siblings. So education was always very important and was like heavily emphasized ever since I was little. I was in kindergarten and worrying about my grades because I thought that they would transfer over to college, but it turns out that wasn't the case. But so I have always pursued to be an excellent student and to really emphasize connections with my professors. As I was growing up, I was also the only one that would attend my mom to like doctor's appointments. since my older siblings were just older and they were doing their own life, getting it situated. So I was always the translator, even when I didn't understand the medical jargon. But seeing that my mom never had someone of her nationality, of her ethnicity, it really motivated me to get into the biomedical field. So because of that, I have pursued biology and I am hoping to be a physician scientist to then diminish any social injustice barriers within the medical field. And I also came to Roosevelt by a scholarship that was pointed to me when I was in high school. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Knowledge, I'd like to pass it over to you. Answer the same question.
Okay, so thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. So I go by the name Knowledge, akin to Nunya. Nunya is a traditional way of saying knowledge. And so I am the last born of my dad. My dad has like two wives, so I'm the last born. And I'm someone who has really like traveled a lot. So I've been able to inspire the young ones in my family. So I am really interested in forensic accounting. So I was a graduate teaching assistant at Ashesi University, where I did my undergrad. So right after I did my undergrad, I wanted to like teach and then like coach little students who also want to go on the path of accounting. And luckily, I also got a full-time scholarship to pursue my undergrad. So I thought it as giving back to the community. So I started off as a teaching assistant in project management, anti-money laundering, managerial accounting, and financial accounting. And so it was through that I met one of my professors. He goes by the name Dr. Atachi Joseph. So he's been on the advisory board of Roosevelt University. So one time he came to Ghana and then we're having a conversation about how to further my education in the United States. And then he brought it up that Roosevelt University is a very good university that I can visit and also pursue my master's because they are affordable and he has also taught there before, so he can give me a very good recommendation of the university. And so it was through that I got to know of Roosevelt University. And he also mentioned of the fact that I can also pursue their forensic accounting program because it's something I was really interested in. Also mentioning the fact that I was able to tutor for the anti-money laundering course. And so I put in my application for the accounting master's program. Back then it was not a STEM program. So I was also looking forward to like doing a joint program that's pursuing accounting and business analytics because I wanted like the 3 years OPT. And luckily it got approved as a STEM program. And so I just went full concentration with the master's in accounting. And so he put in a very good recommendation for me. And that's how I was able to get through to Roosevelt University. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. Did you have anything else?
Oh, yeah. So aside from that, last year, I also made some trips. So I traveled to like Barcelona. I traveled to the Netherlands, Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, Hungary. So I was able to also like have a diversified like experience in Europe before coming to the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely a few points that you've mentioned that I'm already excited to ask you about soon. Well, I'll pass it over to Shayla.
Hi, so my name is Shayla Forrest, and I'm a biology major. This is currently my second year, and I'm also minoring in psychology. I have a similar story to Aileen's actually. Both of my parents are immigrants from Mexico, and the main reason they came here to the United States is to have a better life for themselves because they didn't have like that many opportunities back in Mexico, and to hopefully give their future kids a better life as well. My mom didn't get like the education she wanted. She wanted to pursue nursing, but unfortunately, she came here to the United States at 15, and both of my mom and dad started working at a very young age, about like 12, which is pretty common in Mexico, poverty. So they had to help their family out. Thankfully, I got a scholarship from my high school as well. and it was a full tuition scholarship. So that was one of my main reasons for coming to Roosevelt. I also liked the small class sizes. I feel like I could interact one-on-one with my professors as well as making lots of friends. Um, my major is biology, and the reason why I chose my major is because growing up, I had heart problems. And so during high school, I was in and out of the hospital, and I'm really thankful for all the nurses and like the doctors that helped me along my journey. And I want to be able to give back to someone else and help them in a way that I was helped. So that's my reason for wanting to become like hopefully a doctor or a surgeon. I'm not too sure yet, but I know I want to do something in the medical field.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. You do have many years of schooling ahead of you, but that's very exciting. And Surbi, we'll pass it over to you.
Hi, thanks, Emily, for passing the mic and a nice introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Surabhi Virnave. I am from Bangalore, India. My story is fairly simple. I actually got married and I came to the States. My husband was already placed here. I moved to Chicago about 8 years ago now. And I mean, back in India when I was working, what intrigued me the most was to learn about communication, PR, and the marketing strategies that these bigger brands of the world that you always hear in the news about functioned and worked and how they and I would only fantasize about their campaigns that I would read. And that's what intrigued me to pursue when I stepped into the States, that, okay, I need to do my master's. I want to learn how things happen at the back end behind the scenes. So and that's intrigued me to pursue a second master's actually. So at Roosevelt, my master's in IMC is my second master's. And that really helped me understand so many things, exposed me to so many people from different walks of life. A lot of my teachers were also also working at that time. They were part-time professors. So it was really nice to talk to them even outside class hours, to understand their work, just build connections with them, just to know and read about things in real life. And that really excited me, and I'm so glad that I had this experience, because the way education is in this country is so different than back home. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. I graduated 2 months before the pandemic hit the world, and then everyone just went indoors. But after years gap in 2021, I got my first job, and then there was no looking back from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, you said the perfect thing that transitions us right to my first question for you and knowledge. And of course, Eileen and Shayla, if you have impressions of the higher education system in Mexico from your family, please do feel free to unmute and share. But for knowledge and Surabhi, who have gone to have had education overseas before coming to the United States, I'm wondering if you two could elaborate or discuss the differences and the higher education systems in your home country versus here in the United States.
Do you want to go knowledge? Okay, so I'll take this on first, and then please feel free to chime in whenever, as and when you see fit. So back home, obviously, my experience is so different right now, and I'm sure because of the pandemic, after the pandemic, things have changed. But growing up, the one thing that I found so unique and different was education had no barriers here, no age barriers here, which was really nice, because you get perspectives from so many different people who have studied before but had to pause for whatever reason, for their personal choices. I could interact with so many people there. So that is one part that was surprising for me, because back home, you're in kindergarten, you're in middle school, you're in high school, and then you finish college, master's, and then you jump to the workforce. So that's how I looked at things until I came to the States. So that was one of my key differences that I found. The other thing was to be what I also learned was to be more flexible in terms of finding the right opportunity for myself and networking. I learned the art of networking by doing things and getting down and dirty over there and doing it, making connections over LinkedIn, or whether it was talking to any key speakers that who came in for webinars, or speaking to my academic mentors and advisors at that point. So that is something I learned while I was in college. And it's not to say that you don't learn that back at home. You definitely do. But I feel like I did a lot more than I thought I would be able to do. So those were some differences that I found while I was studying here. And I think they have helped me a lot at this point.
Okay, so I'll just chip in. So briefly, so for my education system is quite different from the one in Ghana, because my university was a private university set up by a Ghanaian American. So we kind of had the same American system. The culture, the way of teaching, the flexibility was all the same. But I'll also speak for those who followed like the local traditional Ghanaian system. And so it's about the flexibility, right? We normally have like this traditional approach to learning. You either have like the pen and paper, you don't really get exposed to like the softwares and all that. So it's like when I came here, right, I realized that this side of the world is more practicalized. You studying, and then your professor recommends certain softwares that you can use. Like for instance, the accounting field. When I was taking my accounting information system course, I heard Prof. Abukadra recommend QuickBooks, Ultrax, and all those software applications to help complement your skills in accounting. But back in Ghana, it's all about you learn what is in the textbook, you traditionally prepare your T account, and you are done. And so if you go into the working field, you see this vast disparity. And also for the flexibility, sometimes back at home, it's difficult for you to like put in complaints regarding like your unavailability to maybe either take some text courses or maybe take some assignments, because I mean, there are so many that it's even difficult for the professors sometimes to even track the number of students in the class. But when you come here, you have like a smaller class size, you have like competitive colleges around, so you see every college or every university upping their game. And so that's also one difference based on like the culture, the approach to learning, the traditional system, but here it's more practical. And also you have like professors who have like earned one of like some of their highest honors coming back to teach you. And so you have like this high level of confidence in what they teach you. But then back in Ghana, it's like, well, although some professors have like their high-end honors, some also is just through like experience that they are brought back, but they don't really have like that at most qualification. And so those are like some differences I noticed in the system between like the local system there and then the system here in the United States.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate that both of you sort of hit on a similar point, that the education system here is driven by kind of making it yourself and networking and being competitive and learning something new. And that's luckily facilitated in the classroom and at Roosevelt. But it's really what you make of your experience and how much more you can push yourself. So thank you both for sharing. For Shayla and Eileen, kind of taking a little bit of a turn here. As both of you are first generation Americans and first generation college students, I'm wondering if you two could discuss some of the challenging aspects of being first in your family to study at Roosevelt, and how you navigated those challenges.
I could hit on that for this. It has been very terrifying and very intimidating. Like, to be honest, I have my 4 older siblings, so they were always very supportive. But one of them in particular was always like, "You gotta make a lot of money. You gotta support the family," you know? So it was just like, ever since I was little, I had that pressure of like, okay, like I gotta I gotta make this sacrifice worth it. Like, so for me, it has been very challenging. Also, more so now in college, where it's like the language is more advanced. So being a bilingual student, it has been very, you have to put in more effort to catch up, to also make sure that you are understanding and performing at the same level as your peers that don't speak a second language. So that has been very challenging as well. But what has really helped me navigate that is the resources that are available to me at the universities, particularly because they're not only are they here to like support me like academically, but clearly like mentally and like personally. Because I just had a conversation with one of the McNair advisors, and I was basically saying like it's that sense of doubt that I have within me that okay, like this is like new territory. Like I am so like intimidated by this. So she just reinforced me and motivated me again. It's like these thoughts are just your thoughts. You are doing well. You keep on going. You keep on doing what you have to do and take it one step at a time. And I think as a first generation student, you're so overwhelmed by the idea of the end goal of being like fulfilled that you don't really appreciate the small steps that you take on this journey, which is really like I like Knowledge's quote where it's like you have like as you wait for life and like life passes. So I also have like tuned into that side to be more personable and take the moment to be the moment instead of just okay, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do that to be successful. So.
For me, it's kind of more like having imposter syndrome. Like I kind of feel like sometimes like I'm not doing things correctly or I don't know what I'm doing. Also like I said, I plan on going into the medical field, and like none of my parents or none of like my close family has gone into the medical field. So like at times I feel like I don't know if I'm like taking the right steps or like if I'm doing like enough volunteer hours or if I'm like doing this to improve my application. Like it's kind of like the same thing with like applying to colleges. Like at the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing, but thankfully, I had like my teachers from back high school. They like helped me apply to colleges. They kind of like recommended which ones would be best fit for me. But I feel like right now, the people that are mainly supporting me would be like the SSSM or my advisor or Jelena, who's like one of like the I believe she's like the head of the Allied Health. And I believe they all like give me good advice on like what steps I should take in order to be successful after college and like in order to prepare me to apply like for medical school. At the beginning, I didn't really know how to study just because I think it was like a huge transition from like high school to college. And I met with one of the advisors for SSM, and she recommended that I go to the Learning Commons, which is like a great resource for like many students who like need help with like writing papers or like math problems or stuff like that. I definitely recommend they go because like the tutors there are amazing and they really do help. And I think just having resources like that and people who can support you are like great for like new students in general, but also like first generation students and international students.
Thank you. Yeah, that was so beautifully said by both of you. A little bit of a follow-up question to that. I think what you both mentioned is just kind of the feeling of being a little overwhelmed when you begin college. And I'm curious what pushed you to start seeking help. Whether that was the McNair Fellowship or SSSM or the Learning Commons. What advice would you have for a freshman or a sophomore who just started who's maybe struggling a little bit and they're not sure where to turn or like what next step they should take? What kind of pushed you to take those next steps to help yourself?
I want to touch a little on what Shayla said, also that it's very like hard to like be applying to new stuff that you have no idea. Your family hasn't done it as well, so you're finding all this information out for yourself as well. So for me, it happened the same way. It was very scary to apply for colleges and even to think of higher education as well, like masters in that sense as well. And the thing that really pushed me was in my freshman year and my classes and my professors. So it was really my professors that actually pushed me because they're so motivating. They want to see you succeed. And I think that's the beautiful part of Roosevelt because of such a small class size that you have those one-on-one connections and they are curious where you're coming from. Like, what is your story? Where do you want to go? One of my professors from biology, who is Dr. Chong, she was always I am so grateful for her because she genuinely cares so much about her students and she cares exactly where, if you know exactly where you want to go, she will have people for you and she will align you with them. Because of her, I was able to do research with a pharmacy professor, and that was for the summer. And after that summer, I was able to solidify my choice of being a physician scientist, that I do want to be in the lab and I do want to work with patients as well to start curing like the diseases and go to the root cause of it. So I think that that's like the best part. That's really what's motivating when you have your professors rooting alongside you and they will let you know of any opportunities that would interest you and will further you along.
I can also add on to that. I agree with what Eileen said. I think my professors here at Roosevelt University have definitely helped me find the resources that I need. For example, I currently work as a student ambassador, and one of my English teachers recommended we look at Handshake, which is like an app where like students can find internships or like jobs or like shadowing opportunities. And I took a look at that, and at the moment, I was looking for a job. So I applied, and it was pretty simple. And I did end up getting the job as a student ambassador, which I love because I love like interacting with like faculty members and other students. Also, like sometimes professors will be like, oh, if you go to the peer tutors, especially for science, if you go to the peer tutors, I'll give you extra credit, which is like another way that like pushes you to like seek out that help, like even if like you feel like you're scared or like you feel shy. Also, like they recommend like we work in study groups, which like is great because don't some people aren't like some people prefer to study in groups or like they're too shy to go to like the learning commons alone or like peer tutors. So that can be like a good way like to like push those students that are like a little bit shy and like help them like to seek help.
Yeah, I like that. So an incentive model, help students help themselves. For our two international students, I'm curious if you could tell a little bit more about your immigration story. So how you navigated a very complex immigration system that is the United States, and how you thought about and researched or, linked with your community on tips and tricks to make sure that you got where you needed to be, which was here in Chicago.
Okay, I see Knowledge did not unmute himself, so I'm going to start. Okay, so I think the first and foremost advice is that my visa is my responsibility. That's the end goal, period. Right? So it's just on you to always, as an international student, it's on like us to make sure that all the forms, applications, visa, everything is up to date and it is submitted to the international programs office. So that was completely something that I took care of. My husband, sure, he definitely helped because he was also studying here. He did his master's here, but things change, policies change, questions change, process change or every year. So it's totally on you to make sure that you know what you're doing. But it made I was a non-STEM person. I did my master's in marketing and communications, which is so different for STEM students because I got only 1 year of OPT, whereas now you get 24 months of OPT. So, things like that. You just have to be so mindful of these things. So my visa, my responsibility, that's like the policy and philosophy anyone and everyone, international students should just like abide by. My story has just been very adaptive because my plan was to, after I finished graduation, go back to my home country, get my work authorization, and then come back and get a job. But COVID just made it so difficult and challenging because the air transportation was was down. We couldn't fly back home. So I was pretty much stranded here. I just was able to secure internship and volunteering opportunities only because I had to fill in the 12 months of OPT till I found my full-time position. So my story has just been all about adapting to situations, if that's the right way to put it. I lost my F1 status actually midway through my OPT. I had to pivot to H4 as a dependent visa. So that was again a situation that I adapted to, and that's why the wait for 1.5 years to get the work visa, because so many applications were there. And there's one thing I learned is that 50% of the work is done by us as applicants, but the remaining 50% is something that is done by the government. So, there's only so much that you can control. You can provide all the information, you can provide all the paperwork, but if your file has not reached the person to review it, then there's nothing you can do about that. It's just a wait game. And unfortunately, the backlog was and is so much right now that it just makes it so hard, and it's frustrating. I'm not going to deny that it did take a toll on me. I was frustrated throughout the pandemic that, wait, what is happening? Why everybody has a purpose and I don't? So I was frustrated. I have shared my frustrations with my family, and I'm so happy that they supported me to this by just calming me down and saying, it's gonna be fine. You'll get it one day. Every day waking up with a new hope is not easy. I will say that, but when you get it, you are so excited. I was so excited. I still remember that I was just jumping on the couch that I got the visa and got the work authorization. So yeah, I think my immigration story has just been adaptive, being flexible to situations, and that teaches you a lot about yourself. I have learned about myself, so many things I could had only imagined that I will do, and I've done those. So yeah, that's the long and short story, my immigration story.
Okay, thank you so much. I kind of agree with you, but I think on my side of the world, things are really different. And so, some of my mates are like, hey, knowledge, you are lucky. But I also tell them luck is when like preparation meets opportunity. But what if preparation meets opportunity, but you are still not selected? Okay, so I'll personalize the story a bit. So after I got admitted into Roosevelt University, now I had to go through the visa processing. So the challenge was that, one, you have to make sure you get all your documentation right, all right? And then you have to make sure you pay for your service fee. You have to make sure you pay for your visa fee, and also before you get a date. Now, the challenge with the service fee is that for a country like Ghana, we don't send remittances. We only receive remittances. And so you have to either find someone who is in the United States to make payments for your service fee so that you can get your receipt to show to the embassy, or you have to go through the international bank transfer. And trust me, it's expensive. Okay, so luckily I knew someone who was in the United States, and then I made the person make payments for my service fee, for which I was going to reimburse the person when I came to the United States. Now, that's the first challenge. So you can either let someone do it for you, or you can reach out to the university. They have like people who also manage the service side of things, and then they would also assist you with that. Now it's up to booking a date. For a country like Ghana, they open dates for students and also tourists and all those things. Now, the advice I have is that for a student, you have to make sure you book early. So I booked my dates around, so I was done with my application and everything around February. So I was way ahead of schedule. That's what the graduate admissions told me. I was way ahead of schedule. And so when I went into the booking portal, the dates available the latest date available was November 25th, 2024, and then 2025. So now the question is, how am I going to go to school in this year if school starts in August, but then my booking dates are somewhere in November and then 2025? All right. So now what you have to do is you have to start monitoring the site. Now, this site is AI programmed such that you can't spend too much time on the site monitoring, else it will kick you out. So you have to monitor, and you can't monitor frequently, else it will also kick you out. It will think you are trying to like do something dubious. So what I did was, and the trick is that most people stay up midnight, dawn, right? Because that's when they assume everyone else is sleeping. So if everyone else thinks the same way you think, then everyone else is going to be awake at dawn, right? So I monitored the website late in the afternoon, and luckily I got a date in June. That was like, so I had like so many options: 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way to 17th June to book an appointment for the visa. And then I went on with like 4th. I wanted the earliest because I felt comfortable and confident about it. Now you have to make sure you have your documentations in place, your bio, your recommendation letter. And mind you, you also have to think for the visa officer, because you don't want to give them the sense that you are going for good, right? You are going to explore the American dream. Maybe you might not be going for good, but you don't want to give them that impression. So you have to think like the visa officer, how you dress. You have to make sure you dress professionally, or you have to dress clean and neat. You also have to make sure you know the details or the purpose for which you are going. All right. You have to, because they just want to be sure, one, you are going for the purpose of school, and two, you can financially afford what you are going for. Okay. Because if you give them the impression that you are going to school, but you can't afford it financially, you are not going to be accepted. Okay, so you have to get your documentation in place or your recommendation letter. You also have to show up early for your interview. And mind you, as she said, it's 50% your responsibility, 50% the government. You play your part, play your role. And so luckily I got there very, very early. And then I mean, the process is a bit tedious because they have to double check and triple check you to be sure that you are coming in for the right purpose. You go, they question you one or two, your purpose for going to the United States, what school are you going for? And mind you, some people try to, because some people are really occupied, they try to use the route of an agent. So an agent is someone who searches for school for you and applies for you because you are busy. And so most of the time you are not involved in the application process. And so maybe you get an appointment to show up at the embassy, you go and then they ask you, so how long, what's the duration of the program? And then you are not able to say it. You're like, well, they have doubts. So they're just going to kick you. So you have to make sure you are involved in the process. And then you answer your questions. Now, that's not all. After your visa is selected, right, they have to do administrative checks. Again, I mean, I have answered my questions right. So, I mean, just give me my visa on the spot. But then they have to do administrative checks to be sure that you are actually going for the purpose of school. And when they are done, you get your visa, and there's just one side of it. Now, you are in dilemma as to whether you should book your flight earlier before your visa or your passport gets approved. Because mind you, ticket prices are also increasing. During the summer, everyone wants to travel. Ticket prices are increasing. And that was my headache. And so, I mean, luckily, I got my visa approved, and then I booked my flight ticket. And mind you, for someone who is not my first time coming to the United States, I didn't know how to navigate around, right? But luckily, it's an English-speaking country, so at least I can read and then understand certain signs and all this. So yeah, those are like the hassle of going through the immigration process. And I believe this advice I've given would be able to help people out there understand what goes into the process and how they can up their game to be able to like succeed in the immigration process. Thank you.
Can I add something to that? Sorry, Emily.
Of course.
Yeah. And I would just want to mention the support that Roosevelt University gave this to me when I was studying. And I completely agree with the process knowledge. A lot of what you're describing is so similar to the process that happens in India as well. And, thinking in terms of what the consular office sitting at the little window is going to ask the question, what is the purpose of your visit? And those are tough questions, and it is nerve-wracking because you're up there, it's just 5 minutes and you have to make an impression. So it is nerve-wracking, it is stressful at that point. And I had that situation actually. And the reason I'm mentioning is because I want to just mention that how thankful I am to Roosevelt University for supporting that. And it was March of 2019. I traveled back home during the spring break to see my family. And I was supposed, and anytime you travel outside the United States, you have to come back with the updated visa stamp on your passport. If you have that, great. If you don't, then you have to visit the U.S. consulate in your home country. I had to do that. I did that, and I was denied the visa. Even though I had my service ID, I had my semester mark sheet, I had the fee receipts, every document that I could think of under the sun, I had them all. And within 2 minutes of standing in that window, my visa was rejected. And I came out crying, and I still remember that I did not want to eat food. I was very upset. I was like, okay, my dreams are shattered. But I am so thankful that my parents, my husband, they were all there for support. We decided to reapply, and I had to extend my stay in India. And I'm so thankful to the Office of International Programs because they had to send a letter with Roosevelt letterhead saying that this is an active semester. The student has just gone for spring break. We need her to come back before March end. Otherwise, her admission is going to be canceled. So I know it was not going to happen, but they just made it up. I do know that because I was in conversation with someone at Roosevelt International Programs in the admissions office, and she was so nice enough to just draft an email overnight, and she sent it to me, and I got the visa and I came home. But it is nerve-wracking. It is stressful to go stand up there. You're being judged from the minute you enter the premises, for the way you're dressed, the documents, the numerous times you have biometrics and fingerprinting that happens. It is stressful, but you just have to have faith in yourself and confidence in yourself that you can do this. It's possible. You have everything, and rest can all be taken care of. The universe is working for you. So yeah, that I totally agree with you, and I just thought I could share this as Knowledge was sharing his story.
Yeah. No, thank you both so much for sharing those stories. It is a system that doesn't make a whole lot of sense a lot of the time. And so everyone has to navigate it and their unique experiences. And I think everybody wants to hear that they're not alone when they're struggling with this. Either their visa's denied or they're so nervous trying to get through an interview, where everyone's in the same boat. So I'd like anybody in the audience, if you have any questions, you should see a Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to drop in questions, and I can go ahead and sift through those and ask the panelists. While we wait for those questions to come in, for anybody who would like to answer, I would love to hear how you've created community at Roosevelt and what advice you would give to new students to create community, whether or not they're new to Chicago, new to the United States, new to higher ed. Knowledge, I know this is your first semester, but yeah, for anybody who'd like to share how you've created that community.
Okay, let me just quickly touch base on a few things. So this is my first semester. This should be like my second to third month. I came in August and I met Emily. Thank you so much. So how to create a community is so you can join clubs, right? Clubs exist for that purpose. Because I engaged a few Roosevelt University students, those who are not associated to like any clubs. And then they said some of them said they felt really depressed, right? And so they had to like move out and then go search for fun. You see, these associations and clubs exist for the purpose of communication, sharing ideas, because you feel more comfortable speaking with your peers sometimes than with like faculties and all that. And it's something that motivated me to start the NABA Association here at Roosevelt, the National Association of Black Accountants here at Roosevelt, to also like mentor and coach students who want to like start or kickstart maybe their accounting or business career or and all that. So and I also wanted, I mean, as part of Abraham Maslow's like hierarchy of needs, right? We all need a sense of belonging. And so one, being able to like join clubs on campus, being able to also speak to your professors who can also recommend you for networking events. Because mind you, you are starting another phase of your life. And so you have to like get out there and then meet people and also understand how people think. Okay, so networking events, some people also have these religious groups. And I know for the Indian community, they have like a very strong Indian group, right? So they have like these festivals, you can like join and all that. And that's how to explore association and building a community here at Roosevelt University. Thank you.
I will add on to that. I really do agree with knowledge in that aspect, that is, you have to put yourself out there. The way that I have formed community in Roosevelt has been through my major, actually, because we bond very much so with being stressed out with like certain like exams or quizzes and like just the whole class. And it's great because at the beginning of your academic trajectory, it starts off with like big classes, but as you start narrowing down, it's smaller and smaller. So you see the familiar faces and you just start bonding with that. And it's like forming the study groups, but it's also like during those study times, you're gonna be talking and you're gonna learn about one another. And then after, you're gonna go out and like get food, especially in Chicago. Like we have so much like available to us. But it's also, I have been working for Roosevelt like since my second year semester. I mean, my first year, second semester. So that has been a way that I have also done community because of my coworkers, that you spend a lot of time with them. You're gonna go out as well. And I'm also part of the RU honors program. So that is they're very similar to people if you're into it. So it's that way of also creating community with you.
Thank you. One question we had from Professor Trees, what's the biggest surprise about attending college in the United States?
It's more case study based, at least for me. Most of my classes, maybe because it was how the curriculum was designed, I liked that most of my classes was more case study based. We would have a set theme that was decided for the session, but it was very organic and very conversational. And I don't think any of my professors stopped any of us to share our points, ask questions, and have a healthy discussion throughout. Because when you're talking about subjects like ethics or campaigns or things like that, there's no right or wrong answer there. You're just ideating, you're just brainstorming. Or even if it's your capstone project, it's just a list of 50 ideas that you have on the table and just brainstorming it. There's no right or wrong answer there, right? And so is with ethics. So I think though that was refreshing, that was more intriguing and interesting to me. So yeah, that's I think it was having more case study based, and you're not confined to one textbook, one subject book. For that, you have several resources to look at, Google being one of them. So yeah, I think that's my take on that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Anyone else? What's been your biggest surprise?
For me, I think it's like how flexible professors actually are, because I feel like a lot in high school we hear, oh yeah, like college, your professors are gonna be so strict and all of that. And I think like a lot of professors, well, I've had like some professors that are like currently getting like their doctoral or stuff like that. So I think they kind of like understand how stressful it is to be in college because they've also gone through that process. So I think like professors can be pretty flexible sometimes. Like if we need an extension for like a paper, for example, like if you ask like 3 days ahead. Most of the time they will give it to you if it's like for a valid reason, not just because you forgot, but if it's because of a valid reason, they'll give it to you. Or I know like right now I'm taking organic chemistry, and our first exam was supposed to be last week, and our class just didn't feel ready, so our professor pushed it back to tomorrow. So I think like professors understand like how hard like some of these classes can be, so they're not that lenient, but they like do provide like some leniency, especially with like extra credit. They'll tell you to go like to their office hours for extra credit or to visit the peer tutors.
Okay, so I think for me, the biggest surprise there is you realize that life is not I mean college is not just about like grades, because like if you compare like um I mean undergrad back in Ghana, and then the masters I'm pursuing in Roosevelt University, right? You realize that it's not all about grades. They are also bent on understanding your experience, how you make it in life, right? Because once learning has taken place, you realize that the professor becomes impressed by like your results. You don't necessarily have to like get score or A's to show how maybe smart or clever you are in class. But then once you are able to like start a project, organize yourself, keep in touch with your employers and all that, and once they understand that learning is taking place, then they understand that okay, there's more to like university and all that than just like grades. But back in my undergrad, it's like, hey, you have to hit the highest GPA to be able to like make it. I mean, it's also a milestone, but you kind of like put this burden on the students, and then you don't even see them engaging in any activity other than just studies. And so their way of life just becomes like one way. They don't have like social life. But then there are people who have like strength in other aspects of their life, not just like the academics. They just need like a little push in the academics, but then they have like strength in other aspects, maybe football, tennis, athletics, and all that. And that's something that I have really like gladly like experienced there. You see, you are really impressed by how like the students showcase their skills in like the tennis. Because if you also follow their Instagram page, you see how they are like doing well in their tennis ball, their soccer, their football, and all that thing. You come to understand that, well, it's not all about the grades, right? We should also like push students in other aspects as well. That's something that really surprised me.
Yeah, certainly. We have a final question before we end for tonight, from an audience member. I'm going to adapt it a little bit so that anybody can answer, but how has the culture that you grew up in at home, either here in the United States or abroad, influenced how you approach your study habits and pursuing your Roosevelt degree?
I could touch base on that. My culture, I'm Mexican. So that has been my culture. We are very much, you know, in my culture, it's very much a big respect thing. So I feel like I have brought my culture like very much so into my professional life because yes, there is a sense of professionalism, but I also think that there's a sense of being genuine and being understanding and being personable with the people that you make connections with because at the end of the day, you're a human. So I think touching base on that human side is very much best because you care for one another and you want to see each other succeed. So I think that that's like a peer approach, but also like when it does come to higher professionals, it is a sense of respect. And also for studying wise, I think that it has been flexible, like because I have done the big study groups, but I've also done the small, like one-on-one, like with someone else or even on my own studying. So I think it very much depends and varies on the person. But other than that, it's been instilled in me, like just subconsciously.
Yeah, I like that. a more community-based culture outside of the United States than here, for sure. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before we wrap things up? I'm not very good with Zoom silences, but I'm going to take that as we've said everything that we needed to. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking time out of your very busy student lives. To Knowledge's point, you're doing so much more than just studying. So I really appreciate that, or working in Survey's case. So thank you so much for taking the time out to attend and to share your experiences with this panel. To all of our students or prospective students in the audience, thank you for joining. And we hope you all have a lovely evening. Thank you.